Hey everybody, it's Spencer with Utah Rustic Design. Today we're going to go over some tips and tricks for distressing wood. Okay, here I have a piece of wood. It's made from alder. It's approximately 2 inches by 7 inches. As you can see, I've gone through and I've distressed this. The techniques that I've used I'll describe here in a minute, but this is kind of what it should look like when it's about ready to be sanded for the final time. And you'll see here what we do to accomplish this in a minute. Okay, here's a couple of the tools I use. This is a ball peen hammer. As you can see, it's got the rounded end on this side and a flat end on this side. It doesn't really matter what kind of hammer you use. I prefer to use one that doesn't have a waffle end on it, just because it looks more natural to make your strikes with a rounded or flat edge. Okay, this is a drywall saw. It's a tool you can pick up at any hardware store. As you can see, it's got some really jagged teeth. It leaves some really unique scratches, and I think it leaves some pretty cool marks. You can do a lot of different distressing techniques with it. This next tool is an awl. As you can see, it has a really super sharp point on the end of it. You can make wormholes with this, and I also like to make cracks, the appearance of a crack with it. Okay, this is a 1/4 inch chisel. This is a really versatile tool as well. This helps me to create knots in wood, and also I use it a lot in conjunction with the awl to make cracks in wood. So you'll see how I use this in just a bit. Okay, the last tool I use is an orbital sander. You could use a palm sander or sandpaper if you'd like. The reason why I like the orbital sander is because it's versatile, it's powerful, and it removes a lot of material. Okay, I have here a piece of poplar. As you can see next to the alder has these knots where this poplar is clear. I've also had it gone through the router. We've put this edge on it just like this piece of alder had. And what I want to do today is I want to use this piece of poplar just to show you that you can make a piece that's clear without knots look distressed and look similar to something like this piece of alder that has the knots and the cracks in it. Okay, so the first thing I like to start off with is the ball peen hammer or some type of mallet. This effect that I'm going to go for is to try to make the wood look rotten or just really beat up, and so I like to do this along the edges or corners, sometimes in the middle, but the key is just to do a lot of strikes. 1 or 2 is going to make it look like it's been hit once or twice, which is okay. The best part about distressing anything is that it's however you want it to look, and so it's your decision how much to hit it, where to hit it, and I don't know that one way of distressing necessarily looks better than others. This is just my way. As you can see, it's pretty smashed down. When I sand that off a little bit, it's going to look just like it's kind of been rotted away, or it's a really weak piece of wood there in that area. The next tool I like to use is our drywall saw. And I'll just come in here, and I know this looks really aggressive. You can do all kinds of neat things, like I said before, with this thing. The big thing I like to do when I'm distressing with the drywall saw is I try not to do anything in the center of the piece of wood, or anything that just looks like it's put there intentionally. And so I'll do all kinds of different things like this with it to give it a different look, and when I sand that off, it'll take quite a bit of that roughness out of there. You might be surprised, but don't be afraid to give it a couple whacks and make it look like it's actually been hit by something. And it's okay to come through here too. Like I said, it's the best part about distressing. It's however you want to do it. The next tool I like to use is the awl, and this thing's really versatile. A lot of really old pieces of wood, and depending on where it's from, will have wormholes in it. And a wormhole is simply a little bug that got into a tree when it was alive and started eating on it, and they leave these little teeny holes, and this tool is perfect to make that resemble these wormholes you see in nature. The thing with the wormholes that I like to do is I like to carry it all the way over into the other parts of the wood. If you just did it on this flat part, it wouldn't look as natural as going clear out to the edge. And so if you're going to do this, what I like to do anyway is to bring it clear out to the edge. Again, don't be afraid. I wouldn't put too many in there, and I also like to kind of expand it out horizontally along the grain of the wood when I do these. It just looks more natural, I think, in that way. But you can't overdo it, so just be cognizant of that. The other thing I like to do with this all, and it's incredibly diversible, like I said, is to put an actual crack in it. So this will look like a crack in the wood. This is where alder, poplar's not bad either. It's soft, but alder and pine, those soft woods, are so much more friendly when you're distressing. So what I want to do is when I'm putting this crack in, I want to put more pressure the further I go towards the edge, because most cracks, when they develop on the edge, they'll be deeper on this back portion, on the edge portion, than the middle. So I'll use very light pressure here, and as I come back, I put more and more pressure on it. The other thing I want to do is, with this crack, is I want to continue it all the way down across the back of this, because if it was truly a crack, it would go all the way through the wood, or at least start to go deeper into the back side of this. So what I do to continue this and finish this crack off is I used my chisel here, and I'll just dig it in. And it's okay if it's not exactly straight, because cracks aren't always straight. Again, distressing is really up to you. It's however you like to do it. And so don't be afraid to really get in there and use some pressure and try some different techniques out. I've been distressing for quite a few years now, and I still try different things all the time and learn different things. A lot of people will use different tools, chains. I've used chains in the past. There's a lot of different things you can use, but I've kind of resorted to these tools now because they give me so much versatility. And so once I get done with that chisel, you can kind of see how it looks like there's a crack all the way through there. I'll come back through with this awl and just kind of clean it up a little bit. And once you paint or stain this, it's amazing how realistic that crack will look. Depending on how wide it is or how many cracks you want in there, you could completely put another crack in if you'd like. But I'm kind of liking the way that this looks right now. One other thing you can do with this chisel, I mentioned this piece of alder, you've got these knots that leave little cracks in them. You can actually kind of almost make a fake knot with this, or something that resembles a knot. Especially once again, when you stain it or paint it, no one will be able to tell the difference. Whenever I'm distressing, like I said, I kind of want to try to stay away from the middle. You'll notice I brought my crack down a little bit from the middle of the wood this way. I wouldn't want to put a knot per se right here. I kind of want to keep things a little bit away from each other as far as this type of distress versus that one. But so I think I'm just going to put a knot right in here. And this tool is awesome. You'll see once you run the sander through here, it's extremely hard to tell that this wasn't a knot like the other board had. And so again, this comes with a little bit of practice and time, but the bigger thing is just don't be afraid. It's your piece of wood, it's your design and what you're doing, and so it's really up to you how you want that to look. But I know that doesn't look exactly like a knot right now because of the color variation, but once you dip that in some stain, get some stain on there, that stain will sit in there and darken up that color, because it's a newly exposed wood, and it also likes to sit in those darker areas or those deeper areas and darken up. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to run the sander over it, and I'll show you how that looks in just a minute. Okay, I'm just going to sand this down real quick. You'll see some variation in the way I move the sander back and forth, and I may dip it a couple times as well. And I'll explain what I did once we're done sanding. As you can see here, the orbital sander is really versatile. I focus primarily on the corners and the edges. As you can see, I talked about dipping, which is where I just simply put the sander on the edge, leave it there longer, maybe try to form a little bit more of a sanded impression on the wood. It just makes it look a little more worn. naturally most things get more wear on the corners and edges, and so that's why you'll see me focus the majority of the time with the sander on those edges and corners. It's important to go over the entire piece. You want to make sure that it's soft, and the more soft it is, the more sanded it is, the more realistic it's going to be. Also, it's important for this stain especially to have every bit of it sanded. That's why I go over the face of it as well before I'm done. Okay, as you can see, we have the final product. I hope this helps. I hope that if you have a project in the near future where you need to distress wood, you might try some of these techniques and tips that I talked about today. Keep an eye out for my next video. I'm going to talk about different ways to stain and also how to paint and glaze wood that's been distressed. I'm Spencer with Utah Rustic Design. Remember, a project a day keeps idleness away.